be dispassionate about cutting our spending, because that would create too much hardship in our communities, especially those in more deprived areas. So my policy agenda will minimise spending cuts, and instead will focus on growing that 90 billion of tax revenue. And this is where we deploy that silver bullet. We unleash the potential of Scotland by incentivising our very own productive people. And in Scotland, we have 10 clusters of economic excellence where we are genuinely world class. We list them out: energy, financial services, advanced manufacturing, food and drink, tourism and hospitality, creative industries, life sciences, agricultural, fisheries and marine. It's time now to focus our resources, our people, education, skills and training around these 10 clusters to get our young people and our adults tooled up for this new modern economy where they can earn well above the minimum wage and create prosperity for themselves, their families and their communities. But for these sectors to thrive, the politicians need to create a trading environment which is unashamedly pro-business and pro-enterprise. And this would be a first for Holyrood. I spend a lot of my time speaking with business owners of SMEs in Scotland. Right now, they feel they are hamsters on a wheel. Busy fools, as one owner said to me, because the harder they work to drive revenue, the government then takes it all away from them through punitive business rates, exorbitant energy costs, ridiculous environmental levies, escalating labour costs, overcomplicated planning restrictions and unwarranted regulation. This must stop now. In both Holyrood and in Westminster, Reform UK will pull all these levers and remove this red tape nightmare. And to show immediate intent, a new Reform government in Scotland will cut income tax. Workers and owners in Scotland are paying too much tax. Those with the broadest shoulders are now shrugging their shoulders and saying, what's the point of expanding my business, of working longer hours, of launching new products? What's the point indeed? The pendulum at Holyrood has swung too far from work to welfare, and Reform Scotland will build a new economy which rewards work first and creates prosperity for all. So I can announce today that Reform will immediately restore income tax bands in Scotland to align with the 3 UK bands, and then implement a cut of 1p below each band, with an objective of being 3p below each band in the first 5 years of a Reform government in Scotland. This immediate alignment, the immediate alignment piece will cost 1.2 billion. Every 1p cut thereafter costs 850 million. Therefore, the immediate cost on day one will be £2 billion, and that will be paid for by reallocation of the currently 9 billion that we spend on dubious, highly dubious environmental protections, economic development, and 132 unaccountable quangos. Turning now to health. Let me just make one thing crystal clear. Under Reform Scotland, the NHS in Scotland will remain free at the point of need and will be fully funded by general taxation. However, it does need reform. As I said, a recent poll commissioned by Enlighten revealed that 93% of Scots think NHS Scotland needs significant change and reform. And that's because health outcomes in Scotland are deteriorating relative to other countries with similar healthcare budgets. Again, this is not about a shortage of money, because we spend 20 billion on health in Scotland, and that figure has actually increased by 6% per annum over the last 25 years. Indeed, the Auditor General for Scotland said recently that despite more money and more staff, the NHS in Scotland remains financially unsustainable. Now, I'm not going to stand here and pretend there's a quick fix, because if so, that would have already been implemented. But at the very least, the NHS needs to be reviewed with fresh eyes. The SNP have run the NHS for 18 years, and they've given up any serious attempt to improve it. And right now they're splashing more cash as a sticking plaster to get through this election campaign. The SNP are tired and all out of ideas or solutions for this critical part of our national life. Indeed, they are now accused of covering up serious mismanagement at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Surely it's time now for the SNP to step aside and allow Reform UK to focus on improving patient outcomes. And how do we do this? by trusting our brilliant medics and nursing professionals, by removing management duplication, by improving staff retention and morale, and by creating new pathways of care. With only one objective: to improve outcomes for patients. Health systems around the world are adapting to elderly populations and a new suite of health conditions. But with a defined population and world-class medics, Scotland is actually in a unique position to once again lead the world in modern healthcare. And now turning to the third most salient policy of concern to Scots, this is immigration. This issue is relatively new to Scotland because historically we've had a lower proportionate share of immigration than the rest of the United Kingdom. And then suddenly in the last 5 years we've had a higher proportionate share of the unskilled Boris wave owing to changing housing priorities, especially in Glasgow. Now, our political opponents accuse us of fabricating this grievance because it suits them to pretend that this isn't really a problem. Crisis, what crisis? Some want to label it as purely an English phenomenon. Others take any opportunity to smear those of us who raise legitimate concerns. At Reform UK, we totally reject that narrative because the authenticity of Reform UK is to speak the truth on any issue. And the sad reality is that immigration is now a serious issue in Scotland and it cannot simply be wished away, swept under the carpet and ignored. Personally, I look at this issue through two lenses. First, through the Christian faith, and second, through the economic reality. Scottish values have been shaped fundamentally by Christian faith because our country has been largely Christian since St. Columba came here to our shores 1400 years ago. We've just celebrated Christmas, where the Christian message is one of peace and goodwill to all men. The modern Bible was commissioned by a Scottish king, James VI, that teaches us to love our neighbour. And the parable of the Good Samaritan instructs us to cross the road to help a stranger, no matter their colour or creed. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a strong tradition of Christian charity in Scotland. However, charity begins at home. And right now we have a good number of Scots in our local communities who need our help finding work, getting a good home, securing a decent education for their children and dealing with their own health issues. Make no mistake, Scots have always been welcoming to immigrants and we have a very good track record of community cohesion and integration. But right now, especially in this cost of living scenario, we need to prioritise our own people over strangers. Instead, from Inverness to Falkirk, local people are witnessing priority of services, of opportunity and of safety being given to strangers, and that is not fair. And that brings me to the economic reality. Our population in Scotland is 5.5 million, of whom 3.6 million are of working age. Of that cohort, 2.6 million are active in work, and 1 million are economically inactive. Exempting students, carers, early retirees and the long-term disabled leaves approximately 500,000 Scots of working age locked out of aspiration and prosperity. Such wasted talent. This is a mark of national shame and it needs to be addressed by Holyrood as a matter of national urgency. Work is a key component of the Scottish DNA. We need to help our neighbours back into a pathway to work. The opportunities in the new economy I just described and our 10 exciting clusters of excellence will require labour ranging from highly skilled to entry-level jobs. We must give priority on these entry-level jobs to our own economically inactive and encourage them to improve their skill set to allow them access to higher wages. Giving all these entry-level jobs to immigrants has the consequence of locking our own people out of aspiration and prosperity, and that is not fair. So Reform UK is absolutely committed to solving this conundrum because the happiness of our people depends upon it. Welfare should always provide the safety net for our less fortunate neighbours, but it should also provide a pathway back to work. The optimum form of welfare will always be a good job, and work will always remain the best route out of poverty. But I say to those who've fallen out of work with no easy pathway back, I remain ambitious for you. Please work with me so we can get you back to a life of fulfilment through work.